Hey guys, this is Dan with Pain For You, painforyou.com. If you are just coming across my videos for the first time, I will tell you that I've got well over 100 of these. I shoot them pretty much every day, and you can find them in a number of places. Facebook, on my page called Pain For You. I will also be posting these on YouTube. And if you go to YouTube and search for Pain For You channel, you will find them there as well. I actually have a playlist called TMS Talks. So anyway, thank you for checking out the video. Today's topic, I wanted to talk about adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome, because a lot of people struggle with this stuff. And unfortunately, the medical world focuses on, we have to look at your body chemically. What is going on chemically with your body that's causing this thing called adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome? And the mind and body are not connected. They are actually one system. So we already know that stress releases something called adrenaline and also cortisol. And stress and emotional negative thoughts and fear will create a chemical change in your body. It's known, it's proven science. So it still baffles me why when you go to the doctor and say, "Doctor, I'm always tired, I'm always fatigued," and they do some blood work and they say, "Well, you have adrenal fatigue," it's almost as if they're saying this chemical problem with your adrenal system is what is causing your physical symptoms of fatigue and being so tired and everything else that goes along with adrenal fatigue. And so I believe they've got it completely backwards, right? If the adrenal fatigue is the adrenal system, which is the stress response system that the body employs to charge our body when there is stress and fear, right? A real fear, we get a pump of adrenaline, and guess what happens? You know, we become stronger. Our blood flows to different parts of our body, our fighting muscles, our arms, our legs, right? Athletes, you know, you ever see a basketball player who's all pumped up about taking the winning shot and he airballs it over the back of the backstop. Why? Because he's got more adrenaline. You know, baseball players will hit that home run because they're all pumped up, right? Adrenaline causes us to get stronger. Well, adrenal fatigue is when you're constantly pumping, and essentially the adrenal glands can get tired and a bit worn out. And essentially it's the body's way of reacting to a constant state of adrenaline, fight or flight. And so I believe the doctors have it wrong. And you know, who am I? I'm not a doctor. I'm just a regular guy who reads a lot, has experienced a lot with chronic pain myself, and big fan of Dr. Sarno and the other new doctors who are doing this now: Schubner, Schechter, David Clark, Dr. David Clark, Dr. Brady down in Florida. Not sure if he's still doing it. Dr. Sofer. There's so many people out there that are still doing Sarno's work. So I'm a big fan there. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, you know, an adrenal specialist, but come on, let's look at the common sense. Adrenaline is what the body releases when it is under stress. And so instead of looking to fix the chemical concoction of your body through diet and supplements and other practices, it's a stress illness, right? And so what's the best way to deal with the stress illness? Learn to turn the volume down on your stress. And in many cases, we can cause real physical stress simply by having a thought or a fearful thought. And we all know that's true, right? You can literally send your body into fight or flight and a fear mode and a stress mode simply by thinking, "Oh no, today's going to be awful. Yesterday I hurt really bad and now today's going to be just as bad," right? We can fire off that stress response, and what happens? Out comes the adrenaline, right? And if you do this constantly for years, The result is this quote-unquote adrenal fatigue. Maybe you're just stressed out for way too long, and that the chemical composition that the doctors can see in blood tests and hormone testing and all that kind of stuff, maybe the doctors see the result of too much stress. So is adrenal fatigue TMS or too much stress? Absolutely, I believe. Again, not a doctor. I could be proven wrong, but again, just think about it logically, common sense. If the adrenal system fires up from stress, you're not going to fix the adrenal system with supplements and pills and medicines and other concoctions. You fix the adrenal system by learning to bring down the stress level, learning to become aware of and choose better thoughts that don't fire off the adrenaline and cortisol and stress response hormones all the time, right? So these things are really, really important when it comes to adrenal fatigue. Chronic fatigue, very similar in my belief, right? And I joke a little bit about this, but I'm also serious. When people say I'm constantly tired, or when I go to do these mind-body processes where I'm supposed to, feel my emotions or express them through journaling or some other process, boy, I get really tired, right? So I believe, jokingly I say this, but I'm serious, is that the brain interprets these processes as dangerous because it still believes these emotions are dangerous, and it essentially says, whoa, that's too intense, go take a nap. Think about it, right? When you are overwhelmed with emotions, sometimes what we want to do is just go to sleep, because then we can shut off our brain, right? So chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, these are stress issues, right? And turn down the volume on the stress. Well, how do you do that if doing this type of a process and feeling your emotions actually tends to increase the stress? And that's where my recommendation to soothe yourself afterwards is critical. And start slow, baby steps. Remember that video from a while back called Baby Steps? If you haven't seen it, go look at it. That's where I talk about each day get a little bit better at things. Don't expect to be perfect tomorrow just because you've decided I need to do this, right? We can't make 100% change in a day. But if you can get 1% better each day, a few months from now you're going to be 100% better. We never learned anything in a day. You may learn it intellectually, but getting good at it takes practice. So start learning how to turn down the stress, and as a result you're going to turn down the pumping of those hormones called adrenaline and cortisol, and then your chemical balance in your body will start to normalize all on its own, as opposed to going about it, in my opinion, backwards, which is starting at the chemical composition and saying, I need to take this supplement because it's good for our adrenals. I need to eat this diet because it's good for my adrenal system. I need to do this because it's good for my... No. Relax the stress response. Turn down the volume on your stress and your negative emotions. And what you're going to find is that your adrenal system kind of recovers and takes care of itself. So that's my take on adrenal fatigue. My take on chronic fatigue is basically your brain saying, life is too intense, go take a nap. Or this process of feeling your emotions is too intense, so go take a nap. And if you're always tired, give it a shot. See if you can practice feeling your emotions. And if you're struggling at first, keep going. Don't sit there for 2 minutes and go, this isn't working. I can't feel my emotions. I'm not very good at this, and then stop trying. It takes practice. It takes giving yourself permission. It takes allowing yourself to do this poorly at first. Poorly meaning can't find too much, or poorly meaning, holy cow, I cried my eyes out and that was really uncomfortable. So don't decide that just because you cried your eyes out or some really intense stuff came out that these emotions are still dangerous. They're not. Look, you're still here watching this video. You're still okay. And that's why soothing yourself after doing any of this emotional work is, in my mind, a very critical and important component to doing this process or these activities to help us get better from these TMS, too much stress disorders, right? So, adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue syndrome, they are stress illnesses. I wouldn't even call them an illness. Well, they're a stress illness. They are a stress response. They are a state of being as a result of chronic stress. So treat it like TMS, treat it like distraction pain or distraction symptoms as a result of repressed or unresolved emotions. And again, unresolved emotions are, I think, 3 categories. Things that you repress automatically based on the way you were programmed as a kid, what you learned and what you became to believe about emotions as a kid. Second of all are those things that you consciously suppress, saying, I'm pissed off, but I don't have time for that. I don't have the energy for that. I can't deal with that, so I'll deal with that later, which we never do. And the third unresolved emotions are actually feeling them, but not letting them go and clinging to them and holding on to resentment and hurt and grudges for years on end. So unresolved emotions, particularly about anger. I talked about that in Sarno's 12 daily reminders. Anger is the primary emotion, but other emotions do still play into it. So hopefully you found this helpful regarding adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue syndrome. The adrenal system is the body's stress response system, and if it's fatigued, it basically means you're stressed out too much. And oftentimes our thoughts can create the stress, even though there may be no outside influence causing the stress. There's no real imminent danger. There is not a bear charging at me from the woods here, right? That would stress out my body, and it should. But if I were to sit here and try to just think of all the worst possible things that could happen to me, I could still fire up that stress response. And if we do that too much, we can end up with what the doctors call adrenal fatigue, and a system that's kind of burnt out a little bit, adrenal burnout, right? Same thing, too much stress, TMS, too much stress. So seek ways to calm yourself down, get outside, do things you enjoy, start re-engaging with life, and you'll find this stuff helpful. Anyway, I'm going to shoot another video because I got a lot of different things to talk about. A lot of good comments have been coming up on Facebook, and a lot of good topics coming up. So I'll see you in the next video tomorrow. Thank you.